Hello humans, it's your host Kory, and before we jump into this week's episode, I just wanted to let you know that my new book, A Well Cared For Human, is now available on pre-order. Depending on when you see this, it might already be available for purchase, but I wanted you to know that the book was out into the world for you. If you've been loving what we've been talking about on the podcast, please check out the book, not only because it's nicely well organized and packaged, the episodes are episodic, and so it's kind of all over the place, different topics for different weeks as they come to me, but the book is nice and organized by section and chapter, and it really gives you a better overview of what it's like to have an amazing relationship with yourself. But more importantly, I don't know about you, but when I read self-help books, I like to have something tangible that I can highlight or circle or dog ear and keep coming back to, keep referencing, and so that's why it was really important for me to make this book for you. I wanted you to have something in your hands that you could keep coming back to again and again as you needed. And so please check it out if that's something that you're interested in, and you'll find the links to all of that in my description box below, but you'll also be able to go to my website, awellcaredforhuman.com, and check out the links there as well. But let's jump into this week's episode. Welcome to A Well Cared For Human, the podcast that tries to convince you that you are 100% normal and an even better than okay example of the human species, despite the fact that sometimes we feel like the craziest, most incapable, or worthless creatures on the face of this planet. I'm Kory, an author, a creative, and the host of the show. Whatever you're bringing to the table today, I hope this episode proves to be a dose of inspiration for you on your quest to become a well-cared-for human. You can find the episode show notes, your free wellness blueprint, and more at awellcaredforhuman.com. And as always, thank you for listening. Hello humans, it's your host Kory, and this week we're going to talk about choosing the right self-care tasks for you. Now, if you've been following the episodes, if you've been following the show, you know that I think that self-care are the acts that we make in order to build a healthy relationship with ourselves. Like, that's the purpose of self-care, to build that self-love, that self-esteem, that self-confidence, to make ourselves feel like a well-cared-for human. And so when selecting self-care tasks, it's best if they are able to invest in those 4 pillars of our well-being. That can be the body pillar, your relationship with your body. That can be the mind and emotions pillar, the relationship with your mind and emotions. The spirit pillar, which is your relationship with joy, creativity, play, meaning, purpose, all those big feelings, this bigger than me experience of being human. All of that fits with the 3rd pillar. And the 4th pillar is connection, your relationship to others, but also your relationship with connection itself. Like, how safe do you feel to be vulnerable? How safe do you feel to put yourself out there to be seen? And so those 4 pillars are where we are going to invest our self-care tasks with the purpose of building a great relationship with ourselves. Now, like I spoke about last week, the 4 attributes of having a great relationship with yourself is honesty, trust, respect, and open communication. So if the self-care task can also somehow create more honesty with ourselves, more trust and respect with ourselves, and more communication with ourselves, meaning we're learning to listen to ourselves better, we're learning to communicate our boundaries to others and our needs to others better. That is all the recipe, basically the breakdown of the best self-care tasks possible. So now, how do you do that? How do we put it all together? How do you choose a self-care task that is best for you? Well, first of all, we've got to look at where you are right now in your relationship with yourself. Personally, I'm someone who likes big results. I'm not a very patient person. I find it very difficult to wait for long-term results. I know that there are some people who are very patient. I don't know who they are. If you are one of those people, please email me and tell me what your secrets are to living this amazing life that you must be living. But I personally struggle with patience. And so because I struggle with patience, I need to see results sooner rather than later. And generally, I see results faster if I pick some area that's especially weak. So imagine, for example, that you chose a task that you were a complete beginner at. I always like to use the example of skiing because I absolutely hate skiing. And so whenever I do it, I feel like an absolute beginner. When you first strap those skis to your feet, even just thinking about it, why are you strapping wood to your feet? I'm automatically resisting this idea. Why would we do that? Why would we put wood on our feet and slide down a hill? Who thought this was a great idea? But anyway, probably someone stuck on the side of a hill in a snowstorm, right? They're probably like, I could get down this hill a lot faster if I had some skis on my feet. But that person aside, the experience of putting that on for the first time, you would learn so much more in that first day because you knew nothing. So everything that you do, everything that you invest in shows you progress pretty quickly. And so kind of similarly, when we look at investing in a certain area of our relationship with ourselves, whether that be our body or our mind and emotions, our joy, our play, or our connections to others, wherever that is, if you pick something that's especially weak, let's say you have a really terrible relationship with your body, for example, or a really terrible relationship with your emotions, if you start there, it's possible that you'll see progress more quickly because you'll be able to tell a huge difference between what you were experiencing when you had no attention or awareness on that area of your life versus now when you're at least giving it your attention. And you're like, oh, I can see how this is helping. I can see how this is shifting things. That's usually where I start. If there's something that's especially in need of attention, I will find relief more quickly if I invest in that area. And so that's one way to go about it. Look at your relationship with yourself and ask yourself, what's suffering the most right now? Is it my relationship with my body? Is it my struggle with my big emotions like anger or anxiety or panic? Panic is certainly an emotion. And so thinking about that, or maybe joy, maybe you just feel like there's no joy in your life whatsoever. If you were able to connect with joy for even a few seconds in a day, you'd be like, wow, that is a huge improvement. And so thinking about this, where do you feel like you're especially suffering? Where do you feel like you could really stand to gain some attention or time invested in that? Where are you going to get the most benefit? But let's say that across the board, everything feels like it's pretty messy. Then that's actually a benefit, in my opinion, just my opinion, is that that's actually a great place to start because it means that no matter what you do, you're going to feel a difference. You're going to feel better because you have so much to choose from. The target is so big that no matter where you throw the dart, you're going to hit something, right? You're going to see improvement. You're going to get points. And so thinking about what needs work, but also once you've identified where you'd like to invest that time and energy, how do you select the task that's right for you? Like, how do you know of, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this? Which one is best for you? Now, you have some options, because this is going to be different for everybody, so I'm just going to throw out all the ones that I can think of, and you figure out which one you connect with most, which one sounds most exciting to you. And actually, that's my first piece of advice, is which aspect or which possibility excites you the most. Because the thing about self-care is that we benefit quite a bit from consistency. So if we can do something consistently over time, so it's not that we sit down and we meditate for 5 minutes one time and then our life is just fixed. Wouldn't that be lovely? I saw a funny meme the other day or whatever. This girl was holding a crystal up to her face and she was like, you better fix my whole life. I guess I shouldn't whisper it in case it doesn't get picked up on the microphone, but she basically whispered, you better fix my whole life. And so if that's you, right? If you're expecting one 5-minute task to change everything for you, you're not going to see necessarily the results that you're hoping for. And so anything you can do consistently. But the key to consistency is that you like doing it enough, that it's easy for you to come back and do it again. So think about all your possible self-care tasks. Which one excites you most? So let's get a little bit more concrete with this. Let's say that you need to work on your relationship with your body. You're like, my body is really suffering. Okay, so your relationship with your body is suffering. Which self-care task for your body excites you the most? Is it starting to cook for yourself more so that you can eat more nutritional foods? Is it starting to walk every day? Maybe you would really love to take a short 10-minute walk every day in the evening. Maybe that would be like the best thing that you could do. 10 minutes after you get home from work, you just take a nice walk and decompress. Is it a yoga class? Is that what is most exciting to you? Like, what is it that would be most exciting to you that you would be like, oh, that I would just love it if I had time to do that? So leading with your interest, leading with your joy would be setting yourself up for that consistency to do something that you can stick with. Because I think I read somewhere that it's like 21 to 30 days of doing something every day before you can make it into a habit. And not necessarily that you're trying to have a specific habit, though of course, self-care tasks can be habitual and you can definitely get benefits from good habits toward whatever area of your life you're looking to improve. But even just self-care tasks to see results, it's probably more realistic that you would see a significant change over those 21 to 30 days, right? Because now you've been doing it long enough that you could see a big difference from where you started and where you are. It might also encourage you to keep some kind of log. So write about how you felt about your body on day 1, for example, and then write again about it on day 30 and then compare and see if your feelings have shifted. Because then you'll know maybe that self-care task is not worth your time. If you feel the same way about your body on day 1 that you did on day 30, maybe you should try something else. Because it's obviously not improving your feelings towards yourself at all. It's obviously not making you feel any better. And so that would be a good thing to compare. Also, beyond consistency, picking something that you like, and then also evaluating your progress, start to imagine the life that you would like to live. So what I mean by that is if you pictured yourself in your most perfect version of you, and I'm sure that we've all done this, we're like, oh, my life would just be amazing if it was like this, or, oh, I would really love myself, I would really appreciate myself, admire the hell out of myself if I was just like this. Whatever that vision is for you, ask yourself, what does that person do? Like, what are they doing in their day? Like, are they a walker? Do they love yoga? Do they meditate? Do they make these delicious meals? Do they have, dinner parties with all their friends? Are they a painter? Are they what does this person do with their time in their life? This quote, perfect person that you're envisioning. And then maybe start with that. Like, what would that person do? That version of you that you wish you could become. And then select self-care tasks that move you to be more like this version of you that you wish that you were. And so, again, I'm going to say something here about devotion as discipline. Practicing self-care does require discipline, but it should come from the place of devotion. If you haven't heard my episode about self-discipline as devotion, please listen to that. It's very much in line with the idea that I've explored before about not making your self-care punishment, because it's very important that whatever self-care task you choose, whatever you decide to do, that you're not doing it from a place of you deserve to be punished. So for example, the most common thing I hear is, I need to lose weight because I just look terrible, so I'm going to eat better and I'm going to exercise. But when you do those things, even if you do them, you don't feel better about yourself because you're just thinking about how you're doing them because there's something wrong with you. So there's that negative undertone of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I don't like myself as I am, that kind of undermines all the benefits of the self-care task. So when you're selecting a self-care task, make sure that it's something that makes you think positively about yourself, that makes you think that I'm really amazing for doing this, or I'm really proud of myself for investing this time and energy in me in that kind of way. And so just make sure that the core principles, we've talked about this before, how you talk to yourself, how you refer to yourself to other people, and then how you act toward yourself, that's still in alignment. That's still positive, because if you're trash talking yourself, you're beating yourself up, or you're giving yourself a hard time, you're never going to feel these benefits of self-care tasks. So be sure that that not only are you investing consciously into the 4 different areas to make sure they're all strong, but that you're not doing it in this sort of self-destructive way. Another way to choose self-care tasks that are really great for you specifically is to think about your limitations. And none of us like to think about our limitations, but it's important to be realistic. And I always think it's funny when I use the word realistic, because I'm very aware that I am a woman who sits at home on most days in her pajamas. This is the most done up I get, this that you see here. I get up, I get dressed up and stuff for you guys. I don't have makeup on or anything. I just kind of put my hair in some kind of fashion and I put on a nice shirt. This is the most dressed up I get. And so most days I'm just in my pajamas, writing stories, doing my creative work, living my happy little creative life. And so I recognize how ridiculous it is to be realistic. Because in a lot of ways, I'm just not realistic. I'm a very idealistic person. But when I say be realistic, what I'm talking about here is that your best chance of seeing progress is being completely honest about where you are now. right? So for example, if I wanted to be a marathon runner, I absolutely would not because of my chronic back pain. Maybe I could be a marathon walker. I could walk really far, but there will be no running. But let's say I wanted to be a marathon runner. I am not going to be able to go out and run 26 miles tomorrow without probably passing out or giving myself shin splints or, I don't know, my spine falling out of my body. Something, right? Something dramatic would happen. I have to be realistic about where I am, which is someone who can walk 5-6 miles a day comfortably, not running at all. Though my dog definitely tries to get me to run. Max is very athletic and he would love to pick up the pace if we could, but I already walk as fast as I possibly can with that dog, so it's not going to happen. But starting where I am, so where I'm going, there are little bitty steps to do that. And so be realistic in the sense of where are you right now and how much time do you actually have to invest in self-care? If you don't have a ton of time, don't tell yourself you're going to do this 20-step self-care routine and it's going to fix everything for you, because you're not going to be able to maintain that. You're not going to be able to be consistent with it. And then you'll get discouraged and you'll feel like, oh, I'm never going to be able to take good care of myself. I'm never going to be able to turn my life around in this way. And we don't want to invite that negative self-talk. We don't want to invite opportunities to give ourselves a hard time and beat ourselves up like that. We want to avoid that at all cost. And so doing something that you can easily do does require a bit of awareness about where you are. So if you're someone who's strapped for time, you don't have a ton of time to do self-care, then you could be focusing on the things that are very much like self-care, that they are self-care, but they're not tangible tasks. So for example, setting boundaries, doing time management that clears your schedule of things that you have no business wasting your time on, or people that you have no business wasting your time on. Thinking about which areas where you're stuck in the fog, fear, obligation, guilt, trying to clear that up. Thinking about where you're going to start distangling yourself from these false narratives, working with your emotions. Doing breathing techniques are really good too, because I'm going to assume that if you're listening to this, you are breathing and that you breathe most days, all day, every day. And so if you're breathing already, just bringing a bit of attention to it, to some very specific breathing techniques, that's a self-care practice. Breathing in a way that makes you feel better, that makes you feel supported, that makes you feel present and grounded in your life. Looking at all that together, the best self-care tasks for you are going to be ones that are applied specifically and consciously to whichever of your pillars are weakest. So that whether that's the body pillar, the mind and emotions pillar, your spirit pillar, play, meaning, purpose, creativity, joy, connection, your relationship with others, but also with enforcing your boundaries and feeling vulnerable, getting out there, having intimate connections with others, friendships, so on and so forth. Which of these areas do you feel need the self-care task, and choose accordingly. Also choose based on whatever helps you to be more honest, trusting, respectful, and communicative with yourself. Whatever helps you to be kind in the way you think of yourself, helps you to be kind in the way you speak about yourself to other people, also helps you to act loving towards yourself, making sure we keep all of that self-care, self-punishment out of the equation so it doesn't undermine any of the amazing effects that we need from our self-care. The whole reason why we're doing the self-care is to feel better. So making sure that we do not have that problem. And then being realistic about where we start. What kind of time do we have now? What can we actually do in this moment? Invest in that way so that we can be consistent and make changes that will stick. And all of that together are the factors that you can look at to make these choices about what would be a great self-care task for you at this point in time. And that's it for today, dear human. These were my tips for how to choose self-care tasks that will be the most beneficial for you. I hope that you found the episode useful, and if you did and you would like to share your comments or feedback with me, or you would like to share with me something that you're going through that you want me to talk about in a future episode, in all cases, I love to hear from you guys. You can contact me through any of my social media or through my website or email, Kory@KoryMstrom.com. Otherwise, I will be back next week with another episode of A Well Cared For Human, and until then, please take good care of you. This episode of A Well Cared For Human was written and produced by me, Kory Marie. The music was by Late Night Feeler. and Esther Abrami. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider visiting my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get early ad-free access to the episodes, as well as a monthly patrons-only Q&A, bonus videos, and more. Not to mention that your Patreon support lets me know that you find value in the show and want it to continue. You can find me on Patreon by visiting www.patreon.com/Kory Marie. If you can't support the show financially, that is okay. You can still subscribe to the show, leave a review of the show, and recommend the show to your friends, not just the neurotic ones. All of this helps so much. And as always, thank you for listening.